how I found my first major client, how to properly charge a translation job, and many more things in the first Q&A on this channel. Coming up. Hello and welcome back to the Freelancers. Today marks a very special video on this channel because it's going to be the first Q&A, question and answers video, which means it's the first time that you as a community can actually feature in my video, which I find amazing. This was the intention since the beginning, to create some kind of community that we can learn from each other. And now after, I don't know how many weeks I do this now, maybe 8-9 weeks I do it now. And we've already reached a community with enough questions to fill the video with. So if you have a question that's not featured in this video, feel free to write it in the comments and I will do another one. Depends on how many questions I get. I want to do these maybe every 2 months or so. Usually I will answer the questions already in the comments. I don't want the people to have to wait for my next Q&A video to get an answer. That's not the point, right? And then I use just a question for a video and answer again. So I would say let's get going. I have the questions here on my phone. I'm gonna put them on the screen for you. The first question comes from Lynn Jessie. It's from YouTube, I believe. Yes, and she says, "Hi, I am a new freelance translator in the cheapest language pair, English-Chinese. Thanks for the good video. Could you recommend some Facebook groups? I did some research but would like to also learn from you. Thank you." Okay, now one thing I want to address, she says, in the cheapest language pair, English-Chinese. I'm not sure what you mean by that, if you want to offer the cheapest translation or if Chinese is just the cheapest market in general, which is not true, I think. So be careful with writing things like this in public, because what it does, it creates kind of almost a negative light on you as a service provider, right? If you always say, I provide the cheapest, that may be good for someone who wants something like a very budget translation, but these people should not be your target clients. You can't really have cheap and good at the same time. There is a good graph or picture or something. I'm gonna try to find it. I will put it here if I find it. It says something like a cheap translation and a fast translation doesn't work if it also should be good. There's this kind of triangle. Now anyways, this wasn't the question, sorry. Facebook groups, yes. So I frequent a lot on Facebook groups, especially for translators. So my favorite ones are, one is called TTNS, Things Translators Never Say. It's more on the lighter side, so it's more about comedy, almost procrastinating the work. It's not a lot about working in general, it's about the translator profession in a comedic way. Another very good group that I can recommend is called Successful Freelance Translators from Simon, I don't know how to pronounce his name, maybe Akramayev or something. He's Russian and he created this community some years ago, and I was there quite from the beginning, quite early on, and now I believe it has let me check, maybe 6,000 members? 8.8, almost 9,000 members. That's crazy. I remember when it was 1,000. Anyways, it's growing and it's very valuable information there. There it's really about the profession. So if you have any question about translators, about translating from people who take it seriously, you will find them in this group. And 2 other groups I use are Marketing Tips for Translators as well as Translators Club. Both are very useful. Plus I also use a lot of German specific ones, so they're not really relevant for you, but if there are German translators out there, then the biggest and most frequently used one is called Übersetzerinnen, so with the large I for both feminine and masculine. So next question comes from Robert. Hi Adrian, great video and thanks for sharing your story. I also would like to become a translator even though I'm already 48. I don't have diplomas as you do, but I just love languages. I'm from Belgium, where we also have 3 different languages such as German, French and Dutch. And with this you count English and even a little bit of Spanish because we live in Colombia, for the moment stuck in Belgium. Do you think I could remotely work as a freelance translator or do I really need the diplomas? Now this comment comes from my first video where I said which diplomas I have. And I believe, I'm not sure when this video went up, but definitely before this one. So there is now a video on my channel called Degree for Translators, Do You Need One? So Robert, maybe check out this video if you haven't already. In short, what he asks, do you need the degree or not? Especially in his case, I would say you don't need one. Because he's already 48, as he says, which means he definitely is kind of established in another area of work if he wants to transition now to translation, right? So what I would recommend is if you have kind of a specialization, if you worked for several years in, I don't know, the car industry or medical industry, whatever, then you're a specialist in this area and you can easily become a translator specializing in this area, right? All you need to do is let all your network know, hey, I'm going away from the sector, I'm moving to translation, but I want to specialize in this. So if you have anything in my language pair, let me know. This is now my new profession, I'm taking it very seriously. Set up a whole business, a video on that is coming soon actually. And then you can just convince people with your expertise rather than investing in several years probably degree before you can start something. So next one is not really a question, it's just a kind of a train of thought, and I wanted to include it because I can give kind of my opinion to it as well. So Rifat Yusuf wrote, this was about the Meet the Freelancer video where I talked with a colleague of mine, a freelance editor, about how she started. And he says, just 7 minutes in and some very helpful tips already. The presenter makes an important point, people trust your judgment. It seems obvious, but I hadn't given that any thought until I heard it said. Again, this seems obvious, but I didn't think of it until Marike described how she started freelancing. She created her website and then emailed her contacts to let them know that this is what she is doing now. Now, as he said, it sounds obvious, but he needed to hear it. And I feel like that's the case with so many things in business. Like, of course, it's obvious how you can find clients, right? It's kind of obvious what you should do to be successful. Then why aren't people doing it enough? You know what I mean? It's sometimes you just need to hear it from someone that it can work. Like if you, just what I said to Robert before, if you have an established network in one specific field, use this. It's so important to use it, right? There are a lot of ways to establish credibility, especially when you're younger or when you're just starting out in a certain profession. And the one that Marike chose with contacting her network and saying, hey, you know, I do very good work in academia, right? So now I'm transitioning from academia to editing. If you want to trust me with your paper, your journal articles, your whatever thesis, and I proofread them because you know I'm good in it, yeah, send me work, right? Next question is from Marco. That's a friend of mine, Proxy Marco. Check out his channel if you want to. Would love to hear more on how you got your first major client and how many, what type, size of clients did you need to win in order to have a sufficient stream of income. So how I got my first major client. Now it's important that he says major, right? Because my first clients, they were definitely not major. I don't think I have any of my first clients anymore. And that's important to know, right? When you're starting out, don't look for the perfect client, because your first clients don't need to be your perfect clients. I don't even know if I have them now, you know, it's always a journey. If you have a client, keep it, of course, work with them. If you find someone else who pays more, who has better conditions, who's just more friendly, more easy to work with, you can kick the other one out, you know. No one forces you to work with someone. Just don't sign any contracts that oblige you to work with them, because then, yeah, it's a different story. So he mentions my first major client. I would say I scored that through connections from my studies. So I know people who then went on to work in agencies. In 2 specific cases, I ended up working for a client that through previous connections that maybe I wouldn't have gotten without that. So it's always important to have connections in the industry. Connections you can do with studying a certain field, because then you really build up connection, like a friendship from the ground. Or you can do it by visiting conferences in a specific field. But then it's hard, for some people it's hard to make connections at a conference, because you really need to be open, you need to go out there and talk to people. But if that's your style, do it. Another way is to do it online, like we have a very, very important tool called LinkedIn, and it's sometimes I'm still amazed that there is a free version that's so useful, because yeah, you can literally just look for a sector, an industry, and just write everyone you want to. You can usually send a connection request with a little text and just make connections, just write people, hey, I love what you're doing, do you have time to maybe talk about what you do, set up a Skype call or whatever. So important, and if you do that, people will trust you more, and you somehow, how do you say that, you stick in their mind. I don't know, if I do that with a lot of people and I connect with them on a kind of a human basis, and then they get asked, hey, do you know a German translator? It's likely that they will think of me and that they will contact me, and this happens regularly, right? And then the second part of the question is how many and what size of clients did you need to have a sustainable income? Now my income became sustainable probably about 1.5 to 2 years after I started. This just happened with gaining my major clients, which happened to be 2 of them. So 2 of my clients make up about 50% to 60% of all my work. These are my 2 big clients, and I need to be really careful to keep them, of course. And then the rest I was able to fill up with other clients, smaller clients. In the end, I have about 7-8 regular clients at the moment, and I'm very happy with that. And these I usually found either on LinkedIn, on social media platforms like Instagram through hashtag searches. For example, I usually look for like expanding to Switzerland, to Germany, if someone writes this. And then if you find a tweet or an Instagram post with a company saying, hey, we're expanding in 2 months to Switzerland, I can't wait, I immediately write them, hey, I've seen your post, can I help you with German copy? Do you need any help in that regard? And mostly it's a no, but out of 50, 1 will work, and that's always my rule, right? Next up we have Bastian. Oh, that's a German one, so I'm gonna try to simultaneously translate this as well. Hey Adrian, very interesting videos. I was also thinking during or after my studies about starting a freelancing business, but I never really knew where to start. So it's very interesting to hear how you manage this. My question for your Q&A would be which softwares, cut tools, that's computer-aided translation software, so that I can talk about this in a second, and other software are you using at this moment, and when did you decide to invest in more expensive tools such as Trados? Cheers. Thank you for the question, Bastian. Now I'm going to focus this question on cut tools only, otherwise it gets too broad. Now cut tools, as I said, computer-aided translation. These are tools that translators use. It's kind of a database. So if you imagine you have a text of maybe 1,000 words, first you translate 200 words, and then these 200 words are repeating themselves. Maybe it's a title that's always coming up again, or it's a price that's always the same with every product. And if you translated this once and in your text it comes up again, it will automatically fill in all the instances, right? So this can be, especially in like manuals or something, stuff that's very repetitive. These tools are so important, otherwise you're translating 10 times the same thing. That's not only labor intensive, but it can also be the cause for problems with consistency, right? So the tools I use are MemoQ and Trados, STL Trados. These are the main tools I use, and then for some specific clients I also use SmartLing, SmartCat, and Transit. But my main tools are MemoQ and Trados. Trados is the most well-known, so whenever you see maybe in Probst.com you see a job, it's very likely that they require you to have Trados to work with that. MemoQ is a younger software and I really like it because it's compatible with almost all the others. But still there are so many people who require Trados, so I decided to buy both. MemoQ is not so expensive. I think it's €100 a year for the service package that they always support you. And the Trados one, I bought a one-time license, which was expensive. It was like €600-700 maybe, but it's one time and then you have it. And yeah, you just need to make sure that your clients will send you work in this tool. Next up is the last question, actually. It's from Tere or Thierry, I'm not sure how you pronounce it. She's a member of the Facebook group and very supportive member, so thank you very much. She asked a very translation-specific question. Hi, I need your help. I need to submit an English to Spanish translation quote for a client. It's a 100-page technical document regarding paint and inks industry. How do you recommend to quote this job and how long do you think it will take? Okay, so there's a lot in there that we need to address. First of all, a 100-page document about paint and ink. Good luck. I wouldn't like to do it, but yeah, of course, it's a very nice job if you get that. If this is a PDF document, the first thing I would do is convert it to a Word so you can count the words. You can never be sure how many words are in 100 pages, right? 100 pages can have, some pages can have 5 words on it, some can be full of text with 1,000 words on it. So there's a general rule of thumb that says that there are about 250 words per page in an English text, but of course that's a rule of thumb. But when I answered this question, I used this rule because that's the average, right? 250 words per page. So 100 pages, that's 25,000 words, source words in this text, more or less, right? And then the translation speed counts as well, of course. You need to make sure that you know how fast you can translate. On average, people translate between 300-400 words per hour. That translates to roughly 70 to 80 hours for this whole text, right? For these 100 pages. So you probably have to quote a word price because that's the norm, right? As an example, I used 14 cents per word, right? So then you have, I need to read this off my phone, 14 cents per word times 25,000 words is 3,500 euros. And what I then do with quoting, I usually say plus minus 10%, because then no one can get angry if it's a bit more expensive or not. So if you offer 3,500 plus minus 10%, so that's 350 euros plus minus, so that's 3,150 to 3,850. Somewhere in between it will cost. And hopefully the client will accept. And make sure to not budge down, right? If he says, no, I can only pay you 9 cents per word, say, no, this is not a negotiation, this is my price. You don't go to the dentist and you tell him, hey, I can only pay you 10 euros. No. You have your price and that's it. Stick with it. And that's it. These are the questions from today. I hope you learned something from it. I found it very interesting to... Yeah, I love when people write comments on my stuff. It's so nice, and usually the comments are so positive as well. So feel free to leave a comment if you enjoyed it. And as always, if you want to practice translation, feel free to add subtitles to this video. The English ones are there. You can translate it into your own language, if it's Finnish, Hungarian, or Russian, or whatever. I would appreciate if you do that. Let me know in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe. Thank you very much. See you!